This video will show you how to make each of these canes. Whether or not you put it in a block is up to you. You can use any colors that you come up with, but I do have these colors in the PDF, the recipes. We'll start with another brand new fun way to make leaves. Starting with just a little log of clay, fairly small. Flatten it into a half circle. We are going to be using these half circles quite a bit for different patterns that are doubled. So first it's just a matter of making layers. In this one I wanted to use a bevel cut because I want the color to be weighted at the top. This will be more evident. There's a flower coming up where we'll use this more. So for this one, basically, as long as you layer the clay, you'll be fine. But if you notice, this one tapers and there's more of the yellow on one side than the other. Finally, as always, that's the background color, that kind of teal there on top. And this one I'll flatten out more than I'll use later for flowers. I slice it into 3 sections, or you could do 4 or 5. But I think 3 is sufficient. And I want to keep those curves, so you see that I added the little triangles in between. Reduce it just a little. This could be as big as or as small as you'd like. See, those leaves are what's underneath the flowers. So I reduced them really small to go on either side of this flower. This flower is a block. Background color on the top so that it fills in. It got to get out those air bubbles. The amount of each color will just change the flower. I'll start it out by squishing the sides down a bit. And then the squish lines. Yeah, sometimes they come apart, so you really have to squish those together. Fill them in with triangles. This squishing process is interesting. You could just gather the corners, but that will make a different pattern. So I first really focus on squishing it into a square. Really getting those lines just squished together parallel before I gather them together. And then at the very end, just pull and gather those sides together. You'll notice every time you do it, it makes a slightly different effect. And see how this one turned out. And then I pull it apart like a fan all along the length of it. Unless I want it squished together like a bud. But this one I wanted those curved lines so I can add the leaves. Those would make nice fabric just as is. Okay, and here's another flower. This one shows why it matters to have the colors layered from thick to thin, because that way this little color is at the bottom. So first I'll take a log, squish it into a teardrop. And these can be bevel cut from stacks of sheets, or you can just squish it and form it. It's fat there at the top, and then it gets very thin as I try to pull it around here to the bottom. Layer it up. You'll need significantly more of that last color, that kind of yellow golden. Again, it's hard to really pull and squish and spread them all the way down. Trying to make it connect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Cover it with a background color. Now I'm going to use this in 2 different ways. So I'm going to take part of it, put it aside for a single flower. And this one I am going to taper, big to small, cut it into 5 sections. And as they stack up, it creates a natural curve. I love this pattern. It could be used for any teardrop shape. Gotta fill in with triangles. And then reduce and squish it together at the same time. So you could see the technique I used there with my thumbs. This sheet has already the green plus the background color. Pinched it a little bit, get it to fit right snug in there. And now those little flowers have a stem. Again, this is how you reduce that. Can be curved quite a bit still. Make those as sharp as possible if they're going to be combined with others. Here's the rest of that little flower. A simple leaf. Now, of course, I need to reduce that leaf. Add it to the flower. It's a very stylized flower. Add in the triangles. This next flower is built 1/2 at a time, which will be very important later for kaleidoscopes or mandalas. So there's the half circle again. This time it's a teardrop, a log, a teardrop, and then I really pinch and curve that so that it looks like this. There's a lot of leeway to these. Almost any way you do it will turn out with a really fun folk flower. I'm going to add another little petal onto that, another teardrop. I really love these because you can keep going and going, and as long as you can make a teardrop and a triangle, you can make these. So then you fill in with triangles of the background color, or you could also just wrap the whole thing in a sheet of background color first and then put the triangles in. That might work better. But now that I've added that triangle of background color, I can add the leaves. It separates it off, super easy. Boom, add another little leaf. But I'm noticing that's not going to be bright enough, so I added some yellow there. You know, you could add as many colors, blends, anything you want. Super easy. This is better, at least at start, to have that whole sheet covering, and then you can add those triangles. That keeps it a lot smoother. But either way, here it is. I just think it's adorable. I love it. Cut it in half. It's a little stylized folk flower. Just think of your own variations. So yeah, building these flowers in half. Like I said, when we get to the mandalas, this will be extra helpful. Here's one more easy, fun way. It's kind of like the leaves I showed you at the beginning, using the same technique to make a flower. And just like the leaves, add a sheet, a thin sheet on the medium setting of that background color. I'll cut it in half. Oops, it looks like I cut with the dull end. That's what happens. Add it. I just love how simple it is. Once you just double a pattern, the possibilities are endless. Guess what I'm going to say? Fill it in with a triangle to keep that curve. And there's my flower. I could change its shape by pushing it in all different directions. This one turned out a little dark because it doesn't have any of that bright yellow. But I still like it. See how sharply I pinched the bottom there where they come together? So here are all the canes again, just sections of them. I have different amounts of each. This one I used a lot. If you can look at it in the PDF and you'll see how many I used of all of them.